If you're looking to climb in League of Legends, it doesn't really matter if you can play well every once in a while. What matters is your consistent level of play for a longer period of time. So in this video, I'm going to share 10 easy habits that help me climb a whole lot faster and more consistent. These tips allowed me to improve the fastest I ever have, even at my age. Yes, I may look young, but I'm almost 27 now. So the first thing we're going to talk about is about social media and especially short form content. And this is probably the biggest change, the biggest breakthrough that I've ever had in my life is cutting out all of the nonsense when it comes to short form content. And there's a lot of research online that suggests that short form content not only reduces your attention span, slows down your reaction speed, which both of these are very important if you want to climb in League. But the most important thing that I actually experienced when cutting out short form content, or matter of fact, when I was actually still watching it, is if I would have like 2 or 3 bad games in a row and I was trying to climb, what happened is I lost and I would feel really bad about myself because I lost the game. And instead of focusing on what I could improve, what I tried to do is I numbed out the feelings. And what happened is that the feeling of frustration and the feeling of loss, what happened was that I was gonna watch some half an hour of short form content and I was numbed and I was completely fine because I wasn't mad or tilted anymore. But in the long run, what happened is that that put me really far away from my goals and actually it let me feel worse over a longer period of time. So it was like a short bandage fix. Now, what happened is that when I cut out short form content and I couldn't do this anymore, and I really recognized that sometimes doing nothing is better than doing something, is I started trying to solve the feeling of frustration and to solve the feeling of feeling bad about a loss, which usually led to very practical in-game objectives that I could, in the next block, I could do a lot better and improve upon. So quitting short form content helped me massively when it comes to improving in League. And I think one of the main reasons why I climbed so fast from towards Challenger earlier this season is because I was so strict on this and I removed everything. Matter of fact, what I did is I actually, and this is not good advertisement for my own channel, you know, but I actually removed the YouTube app completely from my phone because of the fact that it's just helped me down. And what happens is that right now I just suddenly have an extra hour a day. And that's an hour where I usually thought, oh, I've got no time. I'm so stressed out. And what happened is I now have an extra hour. And what do I do? Well, usually I'm going to go on YouTube, but right now I can't really do that anymore because I don't have the app anymore. So now I'm reading books. I'm spending more time on my work. I feel less stressed out. I feel like I've got more time. And overall, I'm just a lot happier. And my entire life plus League process is just going so much better. This moves on to the second habit, which is what I call the block 2.0. Now, what is the block 1.0? A lot of players already heard of it, but you want to play your games in blocks of 2 to 3 games. This means that you're going to play multiple games in a row, and that's going to allow you to focus on the league, on the game without dropping too much intensity. If you're going to play more than 3 games in a row, you're going to get very fatigued, and usually your quality of play just generally drops. And if we want to climb, we got to have our intensity and our quality of play as high as possible. So we want to block between 2 to 3 games in a row. But I call it the block 2.0 because I will take this to the next level myself. And this really massively helped me at the start of the year when I did my challenger climb. What I did is I removed all the noise in between the games of the blocks. Now, what I did usually is that I played a game and I'm coaching a lot of players in my coaching program. What would happen is I would be DMing and answering questions. I would be doing that. And what the new game rolled around, and my mind was with the questions and it wasn't with the game itself, which led to my performance being significantly lower. So what I started doing is remove everything. And I just literally start staring at the wall, practically speaking, right? But what I was actually doing is I was actually visualizing the previous game in my head. I was thinking about how it actually went, especially reviewing my own performance. But more importantly, what happened is that I actually started thinking about the next game. What can I do in the next game? And I started visualizing, thinking about it. And this helped me to be really focused in the next game because there was also nothing that I did besides just playing the game and thinking about the game that would clog my short-term memory. So remove the noise. Once again, the short-form content is what we talked about. Quit the DMs, quit the YouTube, quit the streams. I know a lot of people who are watching streams in between their queues. It's really fun, it keeps your mind busy, but it also lowers your gameplay quality. The next habit is going to be an in-game related habit, which is around neutral objectives. So what you have to understand in League of Legends is that the game revolves around neutral objectives. So if you are aware when and where they spawn, you are gonna be putting yourself in the right position for winning the game, because neutrals make you so strong that allows you to eventually break through to the enemy nexus and kill it. Or what happens is that the big fights usually happen around the neutral objective. So if you can set it up properly, if you know where they happen, what's going to happen is that you're going to be in a favorable position most of the game. So everything revolves around neutral objectives. That means that we got to be hyper aware of where they spawn. So my number one favorite way of approaching this is every single time you deploy from base, you got a lot of time. You're in a big lull state where nothing's happening because you're literally moving from lane to lane. You got like 20 seconds to think. Utilize these timers to be hyper aware and identify where the next neutral objective spawn and ping it so that you and your team is aware of it. And especially in lower elos, don't be shy to sometimes say, I can't fight that objective, I want to trade it. And the reason why I say especially in lower is because usually in higher elos, most players are sometimes pretty good at trading objectives. But in lower elos, people are not thinking about it. People are not thinking about the neutral objectives and if they can use it to trade or not to trade. It's just a fight randomly happening, yes or no. Be active in your decision making, and it's going to put you miles ahead of your competition. The next habit is one of my favorites. A clean room makes a clean mind. If you clean your room, you're not going to be cluttered by everything that's around you, and it's going to be easier for you to focus on the game and have higher intensity. Besides that, what happens if your room is not that clean at all and you're going to start cleaning it, it makes you feel good about yourselves. It makes you feel good that you accomplished something in your life. And what's going to happen is if you feel good about yourself, you're going to feel good in game as well. Now, the next habit is a bit of a personal one because we're going to talk about caffeine, its benefits, but also some downsides, because caffeine is a really powerful supplement that can allow you to take more out of your energy and have more focus in game. And I'm going to be really honest, I'm a complete caffeine addict. This is my absolute vice. If I could, I would drink coffee all day. I love the taste of it. I love the feeling of it. I feel like I can fly when I drink caffeine. So I used caffeine heavily for my climb to Challenger. And what happened is that I actually quit caffeine before the end of the year. And I quit it for about 2 months because I've got a big problem with caffeine. It really levels up my stress levels in my body. And I get massive issues when it comes to muscles in my face and other issues. Caffeine is a big problem for me. But it's also my number one drug that I would love. Like, I love caffeine. I can do anything with it. So what I did on my climb to Challenger, which took about, I think it took about 2.5 months. What happened is that the first few weeks, I started with reintroducing caffeine, 1 cup of coffee. And I was hyped. I was playing insanely well. And then the second week, a few weeks later, I started with adding a 2nd cup of coffee per day. So I started drinking 2 cups of coffee. A few weeks later, I was drinking 3 cups of coffee per day. So much so that I was stressing myself completely out, but I was also playing incredibly well because the caffeine is just, it's such a big stimuli for me. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is right now I've quit caffeine again because it's a problem for me. And there's a few things that you have to understand. This is a really potent drug, but also a really dangerous drug. I'm not the only one that has issues like this. I had panic attacks. I had fucking issues with caffeine. It's really bad for me. But you have to understand that caffeine also loses its power over time. So you can build up a bit of a resistance towards it by drinking it too much. So the times that I found the most benefit from caffeine was either when I quit and then I reintroduced it, felt like a drug, like I say, but also if I use it intermittently. So if I've tried everything, by the way. I've tried everything to keep this drug in my life, but I've made the decision to quit it off, and once again until I'm gonna do another challenging climb. But what I found is that intermittently it's really powerful. So if you have specific days where you can play a lot on, or like play 6 games, introduce it on those days. And keep in mind that if you drink it every single day consistently, it's actually, the effect tapers off, and you're going to need more and more and more to get the same quality effect. And what happens is that at a certain point, your brain starts to be so immunized towards it that it's probably going to be even beneficial to start quitting caffeine and go through the withdrawals before you can even get the benefits again. Because what happens if you go to caffeine withdrawals, you can't focus for 2 weeks straight. And it's really bad. But also if you drink too much, you kind of get into that same jittery experience. So the point of the story, guys, the moral of the story, use caffeine wisely. And I want you guys to reflect upon your own caffeine usage and if you can potentially improve that. A lot of players that I know of just drink it throughout the day, monster energy here and there. Be careful about it, okay? Now, the next habit is a really potent one because this is going to save you hundreds and hundreds of LP. And I call this the 3Ls rule. And I actually created this one myself. And let me elaborate why that's the case. So I've been coaching thousands of players over the past few years right now. And what happens is that I see a weekly occurrence in my coaching program. And I remember the first time that I really started investigating into this. This was about a year ago. What happened is I actually did top lane coaching back in the day as well. And I had a session with Johnny. And Johnny is a professional in his life. He's like a hardworking guy. He is really good at his job. He's got just a 40-hour week. And what happens is that throughout the week, he would have in the evenings like time for 2-3 games max to play the game. And then in the weekend, that was his time to shine. The Saturday and the Sunday, especially the Sunday most of the time, that was his time to climb. Today is the day, he literally said it in a review with me, today is the day I wake up, I'm going to climb, I'm going to make some progress. And what would happen is that he would lose every single game on the Sunday. Let me elaborate why that's the case. And this happens weekly with so many players in my coaching program, and I constantly see it. Throughout the week, right, they're not emotionally invested in the game. It's like a bonus. You can only play 2 or 3 games, it's fine. Even if you lose a few, it's okay. And in the weekend, you preemptively expect yourself. You set expectations towards yourself that right now I've got the time, right now I can climb. And what happens is because you set the expectations towards yourself, well, I'm going to make progress today. And what happens is if you lose one game, it's going to go against your expectations and you're going to start running into issues. And what happened with Johnny is that every week he would be climbing throughout the week a few, like maybe 100, 150 LP. And in the weekend, he would drop down completely to his baseline. And the cycle would just repeat for weeks and weeks. And we studied this over GG, and every single time in the weekend, there was just 6 losses in a row. So what I did for myself is recognizing that that actually is also the case with me, because I'm very busy also with my with my job. And if I then have some time to finally climb, I would just send it and I play too much. And what happens is not only does your intensity drop if you play a lot, but especially if you play bad, you're going to get emotional. If you get into emotional state, everything's going to get to shit. So I made a rule for myself, the 3Ls rule. If I lose 3 games in a row, I quit. I just quit for the day. We are just done. And what you do is very, very important. You should not distract yourself after the losses. And what you got to do after 3 losses in a row, you got to go outside, got to go take a walk or go shower for half an hour. I don't care. Go meditate, go sit in your room. No phone, no distractions, no noise, no one to talk to. Just you versus you, your brain versus your brain. And what you'll find is that you are going to revisit all of these losses because you're pissed as hell after losing 3 games in a row, of course. But what's going to happen? You're going to revisit all of these losses and you're going to get 1 or 2 clear takeaways that you can improve better in the next day. And 90% of the times, the day after, I would win everything back. Because I would just fix that one thing that was holding me back. I figured out what my problem was, and I was able to implement it instantly the day after, which would lead to instant results. Which is an amazing feeling. If that happens a few times in a row, you're suddenly hooked on the journey. And then instead of dreading the half an hour walk, you're going to start loving it. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And trust me on this one, right? Quit after 3 losses, because the reality of you losing 3 games in a row without it being somewhat your fault, I think it's about, like, this only happens like a few times a year. You really gotta be serious about this. Like, and a lot of people gaslight themselves, and this is the problem. And I'm getting so unbelievably passionate about this because this is the problem, and I see this all the time in my coaching programs when I talk with the players that have this, is they gaslight themselves thinking that they're fine, but they're not fine. You can gaslight yourself, and I did it myself, and I understood it. It clicked for me. I gaslit myself, thinking that I was fine after 3 losses because I looked at the stats or I looked at the game, and I was like, but bot lane kind of inted, so the game was hard. And I would literally gaslight myself and saying that I was playing fine, but I actually wasn't playing fine. And only after losing so many games in a row, I started needing to find a solution to this as well. So really trust me on this one, guys. You're going to burn your hand on the stove if you don't listen to the 3L rule. It's a really, really good rule, and it's helped hundreds of my clients get massive results. The next key habit I want to talk about is about understanding your emotions. One thing to note, League is a rational game. And that means that it's decision-making oriented. And whenever you're going to be making decisions, You want to be making rational decisions, not emotional decisions. So if you're in an emotional brain state, what you should do is not play League, because bad things are going to be happening, really, really bad things. So the point I'm trying to make here is that you need to start learning how to embrace and recognize your emotions. In the end, everyone gets emotional. We're all human. No one is a robot in that regard. I myself get emotional about the game on a regular basis. But the difference why I don't tilt or like get into really bad positions is because I embrace my emotions, I recognize my emotions, and I handle upon them. So what I do is, for a really good example is yesterday, I played 4 games on stream yesterday, and 3 of these games went pretty well. The 4th game, I started getting piss tilted. I was playing versus a Zac mid, and it just pissed me off, because playing a Zac mid is just not fun, and that shit just pissed me off. And what happened is I got so frustrated. I played really dog shit that game. But what I did recognize is I recognized I got emotional. I recognized I got frustrated. And in the past, what I would do is I would continue playing. I would do something else. I'd try to fix it, or I would try to fix my emotional state through playing more and trying to feel good about winning the next game. No, what I do is I actually quit. I embrace, I recognize, I accept the fact that I'm emotional. And instead of putting it away, what I do is I just quit, because I recognize that I can't properly play anymore. And if you have more time on that day, you can always come back later. But if you don't have more time on the day, then just quit. That's completely fine, and try again tomorrow when the emotions have settled down. The next habit is an in-game habit that changed everything for a lot of players that I'm working with in my coaching program. And that is understanding how to properly calibrate the map state. Now, a lot of fancy words. Now, what do we mean with understanding and calibrating the map state? Basically, count to 10. Where is everybody? And what a lot of players, especially lower ranked players, would do is they would tunnel vision focus on trying to understand where all the enemies are. And what would happen is that they would actually forget to look at what their teammates are doing. And it may sound crazy, because you have permanent information on what your teammates are doing all the time, but all that information is most of the time not being used in our decision making aspect. And what would happen is that a lot of players would actually think, okay, I can push this extra side lane wave because I've got information on the enemy mid laner and on the enemy support and the enemy AD carry that are actually pushing out mid right now. I think I can push out the next side lane wave. But what they then forget to think about is that their team is then actually in base. So what's going to happen is after the enemy AD carry and support push out the mid lane wave, they get collapsed upon in the side lane. So don't only try to figure out where the enemies are. If you can do that, that's already a massive plus. But also look at what your teammates are doing, because it's kind of the dance, the ebb and flow effect. When your teammates in offensive positioning, you want to try to match that. When your teammates are playing defensively, you got to try to match that. Otherwise, you're running into positions where you're really vulnerable or pressuring at the wrong times. And of course, if you combine understanding what your teammates are doing while understanding what the enemies are doing, you are very smart about the game, and you're going to see massive results, because you're going to really start recognizing where you can and cannot be. You're going to be able to take extra side lane waves. You're going to be able to put a lot more pressure, and you're going to climb very fast. League of Legends is a competitive game, and in a competition, if you want to be better than someone else, you got to win from them. So that means that sometimes playing fair or doing things that others aren't doing is going to be something that you want to do. Compare it. If you're playing football or soccer in American terms, and you could start 1-0, right, in a competition, would you do it? Absolutely. We should do that with a league as well. And it all starts in Champion Select. We got to do a pre-game check. Now, what do I mean with that? Is we got to create a hypothesis on how we want to play the game. A lot of people are just queuing up, going into Champ Select, game starts, and they just start playing. But what happens is that you're missing out on so much crucial information that you can prime your mental energy onto, so that your decision making in games goes a lot easier. And from what I recall is that 90% of players don't even do this. They just literally queue up and play the game. But what you can do is you can create a hypothesis on how you want to play the game. This is going to be beneficial for 2 ways. Number 1, it's going to influence your decision making, because you know exactly what to look for. And number 2, your hypothesis means that you're basically conducting a mini study or a mini review. So in post game, you can always review a lot quicker and figure out why your hypothesis worked or not worked. Which means that not only are you going to play better in game, you're also going to learn more from the game, basically shattering your competition. Now, one of the key simple things that I recommend, especially if you're like, Tim, what do I even need to do? What do I need to do as my champion? It's too hard for me. Well, the only thing that I want you to do, if you're struggling with this, is identify key threats from your champ's perspective. If you're playing Zinra and you're playing versus a Jarvan, we know that shit's gonna go down if we don't have flash. Jarvan can just cage us. That means that we have to be constantly aware of this Jarvan EQR combo whenever we don't have flash. Or whenever we're playing Zinra versus Ornn. These are great examples. Another example is when the enemies have a Mundo top. This is a great example because there's a lot of players that struggle to deal with Mundo top. And you're playing, once again, I'm going to pick a mage, for example. You pick a mage, you're playing Wei versus Mundo top. We as a mage can't really deal with that. So what we have to understand is, okay, where do we maybe want to invest our pressure on the map? Maybe we want to play for the Vayne on bot lane that can actually kill the Mundo. Identify hypothesis on how you want to play the game and identify the key threats towards your champion. If you can do that, you're already in the top 5% of starting of the game. You're going to be so much smarter, so much more efficient than all of the other players in your game. This is the last and probably most important habit that I want to talk about. And it's listed as fix your life. And that may sound crazy because we're talking about League here. But exercise, sunlight, good sleep, and a balanced diet make a difference. And I speak from experience because I've been on both ends on the spectrum with this with these points. I was recognized I slept like shit. I still played solo queue. I could just literally clock a 0-3 block and just end it because I knew I was going to lose. When I was tired, I shouldn't play. Now, sunlight also kind of helps with you getting sleep. Exercise is really important because it can clear your mind and, of course, you can get your body moving. But most importantly, it makes you feel good about yourself. It's a long-term dopamine release. And a balanced diet is just like that. Junk food and stuff like that, short-term dopamine, really bad. A lot of sugars. It definitely hurts your ability to concentrate and properly play in game. I'm guaranteed, I'm 100% certain about it because I've experienced all of this. I've been testing and optimizing my life to try and play the best quality League of Legends that I absolutely can. And you have to understand is that League and life actually go hand in hand. It's not something that is two things apart. You have to understand that if you're unhappy in your real life, and you're going to start playing League, you're also going to be unhappy on the Rift. You're going to be easily tilted because if something goes to shit and you lose the game, what happens is that you're going to feel really bad because if the League is the only thing that's going well for you and you lose a game, you're going to start running into serious issues. Happened to me in the past as well. So, as a final note, right, is that I actually worked with a player. His name is Zach. And he joined he's in the MLA for a longer period of time. And what happened is that at around December, he sent me like a big paragraph in DMs, and in which that he was really struggling with a lot of stage 4 issues, narratives, mental issues, tilt towards the game. And he couldn't get out of Diamond 4. While in the past, he was already like Diamond 1/low master. He reached that. But right now, he couldn't get out of Diamond 4. And then I asked him, okay, so why do you get so frustrated? How's your actual life looking like? And what we came to is that there was a few things that didn't really properly work out in his life. He had a bit of stressors. There was some stuff with exercise that he quit doing. There was some work around the house that he needed to do that really was all clogging up in his mind, you know. And he wasn't just happy about himself. He didn't have anything but League that he was happy about. Now, what I actually recommended to him is the way you want to improve, the way you got to climb, is you got to quit the game. And guess what he did? He quit the game for a few weeks. He got his life sorted. He started exercising. He found a different hobby besides League. And I remember at the start of the season, he soared up all the way to 300, potentially even 400 LP master, reaching new peaks he's never reached before because of the fact that he balanced his life with League. And that's one thing that you have to understand. That's one thing I need to point out as a coach as well. Life's not just League. League and life go hand in hand. Matter of fact, League is a reflection of life. The things you do and the things you learn in League, you can take away into your life as well. So I want to end it off this. Thank you all for watching. I'll be back with a new video real soon. And if you want help to climb in League of Legends and want coaching, check out the link in the description. Peace out, guys.